Hello, friends. Mary here with Boomers Blooming. I hope your day is going fine, and I hope where you are, all is well, that you're safe and that you're enjoying yourself. Where I am, like I always say, I give an account of my weather. It's a beautiful day here. Sun is bright, shining, warm. I think we may get up in the 70s today. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful day. But listen, I wanted to touch on a topic in this video that's kind of hard to talk about, even though I believe it needs to be talked about more, because it's a part of the human experience. And anything that's a part of the human experience affects all of us, individually, collectively, however. Now, the topic I want to speak on is grief, the loss of a loved one, and what happens. Grief. Now, I looked it up this morning in the dictionary, and I just want to look down for a minute, and I want to share some notes with you about the meaning of grief, what it does, how it appears. Okay? Grief is the natural, emotional, physical, and cognitive response to a significant loss, such as the death of a loved one, a divorce, or it could be a job loss. It is a unique and personal experience. It's a unique and personal experience that can have a wide range of difficult emotions like sadness, anger, shock, disbelief, and it can also affect the physical health of a person, their sleep and eating habits. Grief is a process that varies for everyone and does not follow a set timeline or pattern. Let me say that again. Grief is a process that varies from everyone and does not follow a set timeline or pattern, but it is a normal part of coping with and eventually accepting the loss. Grief is the anguish and emotional pain felt after losing something or someone that is important to you. Grief can be a mix of emotions involving sadness, anger, confusion, anxiety, and numbness. It can affect your mind, body, and behavior, potentially disrupting your physical health and making it hard to even think clearly. Grief doesn't follow a predictable step-by-step path and can come and go over time. Grief, I repeat, does not follow a predictable step-by-step path and can come and go over time. It's different for everyone. The intensity and duration of grief are unique to each individual and their specific loss. It is not a weakness. No, it's not. There is no right or wrong way to grieve, and it can take a long time to heal. Let me repeat that, friends. It is not a weakness. There is no right or wrong way to grieve, and it can take a long time to heal. It can change over time. Grief often lessens in intensity over time, but the feelings never truly disappear. And individuals learn to live with the loss. They learn to live and they learn to cope. These are the 7 stages of grief. Shock. denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and this is some of the last parts of it. Finally, acceptance and hope, and processing grief. Now, I would also add into grief regrets. And I looked up regrets. It says it can be a part of grief. Regrets for the things we said that we felt we shouldn't have said, the things we didn't say that we felt we should have said, the actions that we did that we felt we shouldn't or have, the times we made mistakes. Regrets is a big part, I feel, of grief. And so I'm going to put down there in the comment section, in the description section, there is a program that helped me during the loss and the passing of my husband, and it was a great help to me at that time. And I learned a lot of things by sharing that experience. And the name of it is Grief Share. I'm going to put in my description a link to Grief Share for those of you who would like to contact them. Now, helping people find comfort after the loss of a loved one is what Grief Share is about. And they have been in existence for 25 years. Okay? They have counselors. There's an online program. There's an in-person program. Some churches have in-person programs, and you can also go online. So I'm going to put that in the description. Now, I'm not a grief counselor. I'm not a doctor. The things that I say and the things that I present to you are from my own personal experience, from some of the things I've learned on this journey called grief. They're my own personal experiences and some of the things I've learned and some of the things I like to share with you, because I feel I have a testimony. Grief is an anguish, and it can be hard to talk about. And when I talk about it, I do tend to get emotional, because it is an emotional topic. It's an emotional situation. It drives deep into the spirit and into the soul. Okay? So bear with me, friends, because I intend on getting through this video because I want to encourage someone. I want to speak to someone. I want to help someone that may be going through this. You know, this is the time of year where, well, all year long, really, but this is the time of year where grief, the loss of a loved one, comes really close. It's really close. You can feel it. You start reminiscing. You start thinking back. You start missing. It can even invoke so many emotions during this time of year, as well as during the year. But it's just something about the holidays and, you know, missing people. I have a girlfriend that she lost her mother back in early January. This will be her first Christmas without her mother. My heart goes out to her because I remember my first Christmas without my mother. I remember it very well. So I just want to pretty much talk about my personal experience. My husband passed in 2006 unexpectedly from a pretty much simple surgery. He passed one Monday night. All of a sudden, he passed in my arms. he looked at me for the last time. And I remember that look. I remember that stare. So, I've lost mother, father, brothers, sisters, friends. I guess it's just a part of the human experience. If you live long enough, you're going to lose people. And eventually, they're going to lose you too. Because that's just the way it is. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and it was the anniversary of the passing of his wife. I think it was maybe the 3rd or 4th anniversary. He shared with me about talking to some people about it yesterday. And he also was talking about the loss of his son, because he had lost his son, his wife. And so he was just nostalgic, remembering, missing being human. Okay? And so he was kind of like hurt because the person he was talking to, they really didn't mean any harm, I'm sure. Because people don't really know what to say sometimes. They don't know how to comfort. They don't know how to console. They mean well. They just don't know. So he was kind of hurt by what the person, the response of the person as he shared the passing of his wife's anniversary, and as he shared different things, you know, excuse me. I told you I get emotional. This is a hard topic for me. And so he talked to me about it yesterday, and I listened. And I'm like, well, you know, my mom used to have this old saying. She used to say, Mary, she used to call me Mary Louise. Boy, do I long to hear that now, Mary Louise. Anyway, she used to say, Mary Louise, until you have walked in those shoes, strapped up those boots, and you really know, because you've experienced it for yourself. There are some things you know, and there's so much more you don't know. And boy, was she right. My father died when I was 4, and my mother never remarried. And I never understood until I got older and my husband passed what she went through. It hit home like a ton of bricks. So, my husband passed in my arms one Monday night unexpectedly, and it completely shattered me. I tell people it was like a beautiful wine glass, thin, beautiful wine glass, and it all of a sudden fell on a ceramic floor, and it shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. Those pieces went everywhere. And so the shock of his passing was very hard, and I had to have help. So I went to this program that I'm going to put down in the description, Grief Share. It's a 13-month program that I went to during that time. And I learned so much because there were people there just like me who had suffered all types of loss, all types of grief, and they were just trying to find something to hold on to until it got better. They were just trying to survive just like I was. So I went there for 13 months, and we had a great instructor at Grief Share. He was kind, he was sensitive, he was understanding, and he was knowledgeable. And I learned a lot. I picked up some coping skills during that time of how to begin to survive. Because before that, I didn't even know how to survive it. The pieces were everywhere, millions and millions of pieces. I didn't even know how to begin to gather myself back together. But through Grief Share, I learned some coping skills, and I became some friends with some of the people that were there for the same reason I was. That was a young girl. Her husband had been a fireman, and they had 2 little kids, and he died all of a sudden, just like that. I can't remember what it was. It was a health issue, and she was broken and distraught. I can remember her clearly, how broken and distraught as a young widow she was. And there were other people that I met there, but that was the foundation. That started out being the foundation of, how can I survive this? How can I gather those millions of pieces, pull them back together, and become whole again? So I visited my doctor's office, and he suggested that I seek counseling from a grief counselor, because he said that my depression was so significant. The grief was so significant from the trauma of my husband passing that night with no indication at all in my arms. It was so significant that it had caused me to go into what they call a clinical depression. That meant things inside of my body were not functioning the way they should, and I had no control over that. So he put me on medication. Now, some people don't believe in medication, and that's all right if you don't believe in medication. I have nothing to say about that. But it helped me. It helped me. And along with the medication, I had to see a grief counselor. Now, I saw that grief counselor for a whole year. I remember the first day I went in to see her, and I said to her name was Perla. I said, Perla, this is just a waste of time. My doctor has mandated that I see a grief counselor because he feels I need it, but it's a waste of your time and my time, because I'm not going to recover. I won't recover from this. I cannot pull together those pieces anymore. I just can't do it. And I remember she looked at me and she said, stay with me, because you will survive, and you will pull those pieces together and become whole again. Just stay with me, Mary. Keep your visits, and let's begin the journey. In that year's time, I learned so many coping skills. She taught me so many tools, and she explained to me the grief process and what I was going through, and all those emotions that were stirred up in me that I thought were dominant, were not dominant. They were laying low. All of those emotions that I had before that happened, everything got stirred up and got out of order and out of kilter. And it was just a real mess. And I just couldn't barely put my earrings on. In fact, I love earrings now, but I didn't care anything about earrings at that moment. So in that year's time, she taught me those coping skills. And that was this thing that I used to have, and I told her about it. I said, you know, my husband was an artist, so I would go with him a lot to buy paints and stuff like that. And I remembered the smell of those paints, and some of those paints I really enjoyed the smell, and some of them were a little offensive, but all in all, when we went to buy paint and things like that, it was a very joyful experience. He picked out those that he needed, and he was so gifted in his craft. Well, one day, and I think it may have been about 4 months after his passing, I went to that store, and I got a whiff of those paints. And you have been through this, know what I'm saying. I got a whiff of that paint, and I had an anxiety attack right there in that store. I had to leave my buggy and run out of that store and go to my car and just break down. I have a girlfriend. Well, I had a coworker. I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but I want to share this. I had a coworker. When I went back to work, she came down to visit me. Her husband had been killed years earlier. He had been murdered. He owned a business and he had been murdered. And he left her with 2 little kids, babies really. And I began to explain to her those anxiety. They would come up on me. I would be standing somewhere, and all of a sudden it would just be there, and I would run from it, and it would make me sick, and I would run from it. She said, "You know, Mary, what I call those? I call those waves. Those are waves that take over. They come at any time. They come unexpected. They show up when you're not even thinking about it. And you feel like you're being whisked away and you have no control." She said, "But you know what worked for me, and maybe it will work for you? Don't run from it. Walk through it. Go through it. Because if you run from it, you're not solving the problem. You'll always run, and there'll come even more. But when you walk through it, when you take it on, when you embrace it, you show it who's in control. You are, Mary. You're in control of those waves that come. They feel like they're gonna take you away. They make you sick almost. They upset your stomach. And they can happen at any time. At any time. You know, I was at dinner one night with some friends and family, and we some kind of way got on the topic of grief. And I told them the story of when I was working. There was one of my coworkers, and she had became somewhat of a friend. Her son was killed in a car accident about just a few days before graduation. A very nice young man, very handsome young man too. But he was killed tragically in a car accident. And it shook her to her very being. As I was sharing with my friends and family the things she used to do, and I call them surviving during that time. Whatever you need to do to just hold on and survive until it starts to get better. She would go out there. I remember she went out there to the cemetery and she celebrated his birthday. That was helping her to survive. And then during the holidays, they went out there. Now, some people would say, "Oh, that's so morbid. Oh, that's so..." She was just trying to hang on. They were trying to survive that tragic event, the loss of her only son. So I don't speak against that. I don't downplay people for the things they do they're just trying to survive. I try to understand, because people are different. People accept grief differently. Grief comes in different stages. Like I was reading from this, the 7 stages of grief. The 7 stages of grief: shock, disbelief, denial. My grief coach during that time talked to me about denial, because I was in denial. I was in denial for quite a while. And the waves of denial would come and go over time. Okay? I remember her telling me that denial is the way the body works to protect you from sudden shock, extreme shock, to protect your mind, to protect your heart from sudden, extreme shock and loss. So you go into a denial mode until you can work through the terms of coming to grips with what has really happened. I believe what she said. I believe it was that denial mode that I had that came and went that helped me to survive. I believe it was that shock. I believe it was all of that that held and gripped me and helped me to survive. I believe it was all of that. I remember being angry. I went through all 7 steps: shock, denial, anger, and even bargaining. Oh, yes, I bargained. Lord, if you would just do this. Lord, if you would just do that. Lord, if you would just bring it back. Lord, if I just wake up tomorrow and this hasn't happened. Lord, if this was just a terrible nightmare and I'm waking up from it and everything's fine again. All of that's normal. Because remember, you've suffered a severe shock and you're in denial. Depression. Depression is a part of it. Now, my depression went to clinical depression, which was a physical thing. Okay? Everybody don't go to clinical depression and need medication. But there is depression. That's a part of it. And one of the final processes of grief that I never thought that first day I went to see that counselor, I never thought I'd get there, is acceptance and hope. Now that comes in time, and it's different with different people. It depends on the person. It depends on the loss. It depends on the relationship. There's so many things that it depends on. Acceptance, accepting what has happened. Now that's down the line. I never thought I'd get there, but praise the Lord, I did get there. I finally came into the reality of acceptance. And you know what comes with acceptance? Hope. Because you don't have it at first. But as you move toward that, accepting what has happened, hope gets a rebirth. It's reborn in you. Hope. And all of those things that you've gone through. And let me tell you, they don't come in order. Sometimes anguish comes. Sometimes depression comes. Sometimes denial is still there. To this day, sometimes I still experience denial. Yeah. But because it's been some years and I have survival tools and I have come into the acceptance stage, when denial comes, I know what denial is. I know that this has really happened and that it's not going away. It's permanent. You know, I had a niece that was killed years ago. This is probably back in 2000 and maybe 2. She was killed in a very tragic accident. And she was married with children. And I remember seeing her husband at the bank probably about 15, 20 years later. And I remember talking to him in the line. And I remember saying to him, did you get any help? Did you reach out? Because that's a heavy burden to carry all by yourself like that. And he said, no, I didn't, Mary, but I wished I had, because I think it would have helped. Because he was still stuck. See, there's a place in grief where you can get stuck. Now, being stuck is not a bad thing. what's bad about being stuck is staying stuck. Because when you're stuck, you can't move forward. You can't move forward out of anger, depression, disappointment. You can't, because you're stuck. That's what the Grief Share program did for me. That's what going to a therapist for over a year did for me. It helped me to be unstuck. All of those millions of pieces that shattered on that ceramic floor when my husband passed, piece by piece, they began to come together because I was shattered. I felt as if I was standing at the edge of a cliff, and at any time I was just going to topple over. No support, no foundation. And guess what, friends? At times, I felt it would have been a relief to just topple over and end it. I'll be truthful with you, because I'm speaking to somebody that has gone through these things and maybe even more than what I have. Emotions are very powerful, and they speak very loudly. And in tragedies, they scream. They really do. So I just wanted to share this with you all, because I don't mind sharing my journey. I don't mind sharing my grief journey. I don't mind sharing how my friend, best friend, my husband passed in my arms suddenly one night. And what it took for me to become whole again. What it took for me to accept what had happened. What it took to bring hope back into my life again. So friends, if you're going through these things, or you've gone through them, because it doesn't matter the time span. As I began to tear up, as I began to talk about this, my husband passed 17 years ago. But hey, I still tear up. I still miss him. And I have empathy and I have sympathy for people who have lost loved ones. It's magnified in me because I've been at that doorstep, because I've experienced those tears, the sleepless nights, the empty chair, the lost conversation, the touch, the feel. I've experienced all of that. But I'm here to tell you that there is hope. And there are stages to grief. And if you need help, don't be afraid to reach out for it, because you can't do this alone. It's just like my niece's husband said to me in that bank line, I wished I had gotten help. A lot of people don't think they need help. And maybe some people don't need help, because it's different for everybody. I cannot say that enough. The grief experience, the journey, when you've lost someone that you love, it's different. It depends on the individual. So I'm not one of those people who say, oh, you should be over there. It's been 50 years. I don't go there. I'm not one of those people who say, well, you know what? You just need to get on with your life. I don't say that. I don't go there. Because it's a lifetime of survival when you lose somebody that you love, that you care so deeply about. It's a lifetime of survival. It's a journey. So I just want to encourage. I know this time of year can be dreadful for so many people. The memories, the missing, the longing, I've been through it. I understand it. I want to comfort you. I just want to share with you. I want to make it in my own way, just a little bit, if I can, a little bit more easier for you. Let you know that you're not the only one. You know, I used to have these thoughts that I used to have after my husband passed. They were crazy thoughts. Crazy thoughts. Come to find out, well, I thought they were crazy thoughts. Come to find out, they weren't crazy thoughts. They were all a part of the grief process. They weren't really crazy. People were having thoughts, the same thoughts I was having. My girlfriend invited me to her daughter was in college and she was in drama. And she was having a play. So my dear girlfriend invited me to the play. I didn't want to go. And this was probably like 3 months after my husband passed. I did not want to go. Now let me tell you what my reasoning was. See, you have these thoughts. Don't think you're crazy, because you're not. You're trying to process this. You're trying to process it. Your mind, your body is trying to process what's happened. I said to my friend, I don't want to go because I don't want to be that far away from my husband. And she kind of looked at me. Because see, my husband was not cremated. He was buried. So I felt like his relationship and my relationship was so close. I felt like if I left town, I was going too far from him. Excuse me. I felt like it was a betrayal when he needed me. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? That's how I felt. But only because I was in that process mode of trying to process this and trying to survive. So friends, those of you that have had thoughts, those of you that have gone to the cemetery and had a party, I have nothing to say about that. All I can say is that in time, sometimes you can't even tell people in time it will get better because they don't believe it. I didn't. I thought it was going to take me out. So sometimes you can say to people, just give it time. They don't hear that. You know why? Because they're right there in that present. And that present is excruciating. Anguish, pain, denial, shock, bargaining, all of those things. The waves that come and take you away. It takes time. It takes time. And I will truly add this. It takes time and it takes God. It does. For me, it took time, and for me, it took God. But in the beginning, I was so torn, so broken, so shattered. In such deep pain and anguish. Didn't know how to hold on. What was I holding on to? It's terrible. But after 17 years, I can give my testimony and say I finally came into acceptance. Now, do I still at times revert back to those 7 stages? Sure I do. Can I go into a paint store and smell a certain paint and think, and it'll hit me like a rock? Sure I do. But I have survival tools. And just like my coworker said to me, don't run from the waves. Confront them and walk through it. Oh, it's going to be painful now. I'm not going to say that's easy. But if you run from them, you'll always run. But if you confront them and let that wave know you are in charge, oh, it's going to be painful going through that tunnel of that wave. Well, for me, that was a survival tool because I was having them all the time. I mean, I could just be out eating, or I could just be in the store just looking at a pair of socks, and all of a sudden, here it comes. Oh, God. You know, in the early stages of my grief, I could actually feel those waves coming. I could feel them stirring up. And then they're like, oh, take me. I don't know what you call yours. I don't know if you call them waves, But you know what I'm talking about. Those of you that I'm talking to that understand what I'm saying. So I just want to encourage someone. I just want to be, because you know, my station, Boomers Blooming, is about real life issues. Sometimes I come to you in a funny way with laughter and fun, just trying to share and get my point over. And then there are times I come to you like this. You know, I think this subject of grief needs to be talked about. It's a hard subject now. Don't get me wrong. This is a hard subject to talk about. Who wants to talk about this? We don't. I don't think we should talk about it every day. But for those that are new and fresh in it, it's all right if they talk about it every day. You know what I'm saying? But I think it needs to be addressed because it's a part of the life experience. None of us come here to stay, and we're going to all lose loved ones. And I think it's important that we may not know in the beginning, but during that grief experience, we start gaining tools and understanding of the grief process. So you don't think you're the only one. You don't think you're crazy. You don't think your thoughts are so far-fetched that you're losing your mind. Because I went there. I mean, I didn't want to leave town. My husband was buried, but I didn't want to leave town because I felt like I was betraying him, going too far from him. That was a real thought. Yes, it was. And so everybody, I just want to end by saying, grief is different for everybody. The tools we use to survive that horrific event, the anguish, the pain, just the sheer disbelief and the denial. The tools we use to survive until we can get to that point, however long it takes to survive, and then to accept. Acceptance pretty much is the last phase. But for everybody, it's different. You can't put a time frame on that. You can't look at a person and say, you should be in the acceptance stage. You can't do that. Maybe you're in the acceptance stage, but you can't, your story may not be somebody else's story. Your story is your story, how you survived. But what you can do is encourage, have empathy, try to comfort. And you know what is one of the best keys to this? Listen. When my coworker used to come down and talk to me about her son that was killed in that tragic accident, she did that for, I know, probably well over a year. And she came down to my office one day and she said, Mary, people are tired of me talking about my son. And I said, anytime you want to talk about your son, you come down here and talk to me, because I'll never get tired. I've never lost a son. I've never lost a child. I hope I don't. I pray I don't. But I had empathy. I had sympathy. I had not put those boots on or walked in those shoes. But I wanted to comfort. I wanted to help her get to that point where she could accept what had happened. And if she went out there every day and sit by his gravesite, and that's what helped her to survive until she could move forward, that was all right. Maybe I'm wrong to think that way. I'm telling you how I think. I'm telling you how I look at it. Maybe you think a different way. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people think, oh, man, why would you do that? That's because we're all different. And we all handle it in different ways. Because we're individuals with pasts. We're individuals who have been raised a certain way. We're individuals with issues and hurts and dreams and desires. And when these things happen, it can shatter it all. just like that fine wine glass was dropped on that hard, beautiful ceramic floor. It took me years, with the help of God, family, friends, medication, counseling, therapy, to start bringing those pieces back together. That was all going toward acceptance and hope. That's what it was leading up to. Acceptance. And with acceptance comes hope. Thank you guys for bearing with me when I got a little emotional. But it's important to me to share this. I think our testimonies they're never, this only happened to me. Our testimonies are not, oh, this only happened to me. No, it's happened to other people too. And our testimonies are to bear witness, to say, hey, look, I lived through it. Look at me. It wasn't easy. And some of the things that you are experiencing, I experienced them too. I remember when I went to that 13-week grief share program, the instructor was so good, so well trained. He came around the room one by one and he would say, of these 7 grief experiences, how many have you experienced? Was it denial? Was it grief? Blah, blah, blah. So when he came up to me, he said, so how? All 7, all at once, at one time, coming back over and over in different orders. Because they were. All 7 I had experienced together, separately, at different times, grouping up on me. And he looked at me and he said, wow. But I was being honest. I was being honest. So friends, I love you guys. I didn't mean for the video to be so long because I know this is the time of year, like I say, where it's extremely hard. People have lost people this year, the years before. Even though my husband has been passed 17 years ago, I still think of him during this time of year. Christmas time, what we shared, the laughter, the fun, the body touch, the hold, the humor. I'll never forget that. It's just easier now. The intensity is not as strong now. You see what I'm saying? It gets easier. Now, you may not believe that right now, but it will get easier. You will see. So, I love you guys. And my hope is, my prayer, not just my hope, is that in this video, I have touched someone's life. I have given them hope, and I have let them know that what you are experiencing is all right. You are not crazy. You are not off the grid. It's normal. And whether you believe it or not, at this time in your life, just hang on. Hang in there. Walk through it. Pray through it if you're a praying person. Reach up. Reach out to friends and family. Because guess what? It does get better. Acceptance does come. And with acceptance, hope comes. And there's so many benefits in hope. Thank you for bearing with me again, because this has been a topic I have wanted to share with you all, but I knew it would be hard. But that's all right. There are topics that we need to talk about that are not easy. And that does not mean we need to run away from them, because you don't ever know who you may help. You all have a great day. And like I said, keep your peace, keep hope, be a survivor. And if you like my content, if you would give me a thumbs up. And if you just like me, you know, the information I bring, because I'm genuine. What you see is what you get. I don't rehearse. I just get up here and I talk about life. So what you see is what you get. So if you would subscribe if you'd like to. It's free of charge. No cost. It just lets you know when my next video is coming out. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your understanding. I don't take that for granted. And I wish you all great Thanksgiving, great Christmas, great first of the year. I pray that you all have some survival tools that you can pull out of that tool case and use to help you, because it can be a very stressful period. I know that. I've been through it. So